Welcome to part one of loading the FactInternetSales table. What we're going to do is execute a simple little package to load the FactInternetSales. But before we do that, I want to talk about what's going to be involved in loading this. Now, I'm jumped back out into the SQL Server Management Studio because I want to point out something. Earlier, we built a package and loaded our customer table. And if you remember, I went in and took off this relationship when I loaded the customer table, because I didn't want to have problems trying to load data here. I was trying to truncate the table, and I can't truncate it with it connected out to foreign keys. So I dropped the relationship so that I could truncate the table and then reload the data. And then what I need to do when I'm done is recreate that relationship. Now, obviously, what I need to do is execute a SQL task before and after that load. Execute a SQL task before the data task to truncate the customer table, the dim customer table, then load the dim customer table, then execute another SQL task to establish this relationship, to alter the table and add the relationship back. Okay, so keep in mind, I didn't have that in there because I was trying to keep it simple. Now, here's the next step. When we get ready to load the FactInternetSales table, keep in mind that we have these one-to-many relationships, primary key, foreign key relationships from each of our dimensions into the FactInternetSales table, which means we're going to have to load this table only after we have data in our dimensions tables, okay? Because think about what's happening here. If I try to load a product key in here as a foreign key, but it can't find a relationship out to the primary key out here, then that basically we're adding orphan data, and it will squawk at us and it won't let us do that, okay? What I've got to do first is I would have to, in the real world, write a package to maybe, if this is the way I'm going to do this, and there's a lot of reasons to do it, a lot of reasons not to do it, I would have to drop all these relationships, truncate and load the customer. I wouldn't truncate and load the date, but I would truncate and load the products to make sure that there are no new products out there. And again, if I just wanted to incrementally add these things, I could do that. And also, if I had a slowly changing dimension here, I would have to do lookups into the various locations to find the customer key, because I would add another, like a customer data warehouse key here, and then I would add a flagged column down here. I talked about these earlier, but this can get fairly complex, as you might imagine, and I would strongly encourage you, before you go take this exam, to play with some of those examples, okay? There's so much stuff that I could put in this course, it would last about 2 weeks, all right? But keep in mind, to load the FactInternetSales table, I'm going to treat it just like I did the other ones, and that is, I'm going to assume that it's empty. I'll truncate it before I load it, and then I will just work a load. But keep in mind, I have to have data in all of these before I can load this. Now, so here's what I did. I have put out there for you a load dimension tables script file, okay? And so all I did is come down here and did an insert, and I just executed this whole thing to load the dim product table, okay? And then I've got a little script down here for you to run to load the date table, okay? And if you just execute that, it loads the date table. Keep in mind, we loaded the customer table using an SSIS package, okay? So once I've got those loaded successfully, now I'm ready to go out and load my FactInternetSales table, okay? And so the way to do that, and I'll get started on this in part one here, and then we'll no doubt have to jump out to part two to finish this up. But the first thing that I need to do to load my fact table, and keep in mind this would all be in one giant package, but I'm breaking it out here for simplicity, help make it a little easier to understand on building these things. The first thing I need to do is execute a SQL task, but notice I don't have any connection manager. So I'll right click here, do a new OLADB connection, and I want to connect to the AdventureWorks DW 2012. I already have that out there. And then another connection I want to connect to my VTCDW database, and I already have that one built out there, so I'll just add those. Now I'll double click on my Execute SQL task, and notice here I'll choose my connection, and I will choose the VTCDW, and my statement, I'll just do it right here, truncate table fact internet sales, and then I will say OK there, and I'll execute this to see if I get a success here, and if I do, then I know that I'm truncating the table. And there we go. So I'm succeeded, so I'm truncating the table, so that first step is OK. Now obviously I want to make sure that I'm actually ready to truncate that table before I do something like that, and now I need to drag on a data flow task, and now that I've truncated the fact table, now I want to go in and actually load it. And what I'm going to do is stop in part 1 right here, come back in part 2, and we'll finish our data flow task to populate our fact internet sales table.